Welcome everybody to a Watch Dogs online hacking strategy guide. So first off, we're going to get started with city hiding spots and city tactics. Okay, let's get started off with the hardest spots to hide, and that's in the city. Reason for this is the city, you have a lot taller buildings and buildings you can't get into and on top of. So therefore, hiding in the city from your opponent is a lot harder. What I suggest is, first off, you have 5 minutes to actually scout out and hack your opponent. So first off, what you want to do is use almost all of that 5 minutes. You don't have to use all of it, but you want to use some of it to scout the area, figure out where's the best spot you can go, and also have a backup plan just in case, because you never know what's going to happen. So you really just want to be careful, figure out what you have to kind of think the way they would think. You have to think, well, what would they do if I was them? So that's what you kind of have to think of. You want to use that 5 minutes, like I said. A couple things you want to look for. So a couple things you want to look for are subway stations, alleyways, big cars, big trucks like dump trucks, stuff like that. And you also want to look for like some bushes that you can hide in, stuff like that. Right now we're going into an alleyway. The alleyway is somewhat the hardest spot to actually hide from people because most people suspect that you're going to be hiding in an alleyway. That's their first instinct. If they see one, they think, well, he's immediately going to go into there, so they run in there. So you kind of want to stay away from alleyways somewhat, but you still want to use them to your advantage sometimes. Another thing I like to do is, especially during the nighttime, I like to hide in cars. Depending on the area that you are in, you want to be careful. So, for example, if I'm in the city, there's not any garages, like parking garages, there's not any subway station, sometimes I get into a big truck. Now here's the thing, you don't want to get into a really nice car. Reason for that is somebody sees a nice car and they immediately think, whoa, I like that car. So you want to kind of stay away from the nicer cars. You kind of want to get into some big trucks or big vans. Reason for this is people don't expect it. Reason they don't expect it is because if you're trying to run away from somebody, they usually think you're going to have a fast car just in case you're caught. Oh, excuse me. That's why you kind of want to stay away from fast cars. Speaking of that, sometimes when you go into the game, when you join somebody else's game to hack them, sometimes it will spawn you in a really nice car most of the time. If you do, and that does happen, get out of that car immediately. I mean immediately. Reason for this is, like we said earlier, people always look for nice cars when they're in a free roam. For example, if you see a Lamborghini going down the street, you're probably going to stop your Infinity or whatever kind of car you have, and you're going to try to get into the Lamborghini. I've done it before, I know a lot of other people do. So you really want to try to find the crappiest car that you can find. So really, the city is a really hard spot to hide. So if you want to get in the city and you're hacking somebody in the city, look around, look for parking garages, look for train stations that you can get on top of, because my train station record is pretty good. I've used it over 20 times. I've only got caught once. That's right, once. So maybe you go on top of roofs with air conditionings, stuff like that. So now let's get over to the rural areas like the ghetto. Okay, now we're gonna go over hiding in the ghetto or the less developed part of the town. And this is actually a little bit easier. This is my favorite spot to hack people. Reason for that is there's a lot more broken buildings, there's a lot more dumpsters because of construction, there's a lot more opportunity for you to actually hide. It's a little bit easier for you to get on roofs. So this is why I prefer hacking people in this part of town. So like I said, my favorite spot to hide would probably be the dumpsters. I've found a lot of dumpsters and I've always hidden in the dumpsters. Again, kind of like in the city, you kind of want to use that 5 minutes to scout out the area, figure out where you can go. Again, that's actually I know I'm kind of like preaching it, but that's a really important part of this entire game type, is using that time to develop and enhance yourself. And so this part of the town is so much easier, like I was saying, just because you do have so much more opportunity for rooftops, for houses, stuff like that. We're kind of going to go over the the residential area as well here, because that's kind of the same. The residential area, you're basically going to hide in backyards when there's a fence, stuff like that. There's one spot I hid at before. The house had a huge bush in front of it. Take that as you will. and I hid in the bush against the house, and I was unseeable. I couldn't even see myself. So you want to look for areas like that. And in this kind of in this part of town, what you want to do is you want to look for dumpsters. You're going to find more dump trucks because of construction, stuff like that. You want to use everything that you can get inside of, rooftops as well. And all these spots are places that people really don't check that much. So that's the thing that you're looking for, is where people, it's right in front of them, but it's also not too obvious to them. So I think once the game goes on for a while and more people play it, more people are going to catch on to this stuff. But for now, these are some of the things I use, and I've hardly ever lost. I've only lost, I think, maybe 10 times out of my 100 games. Now, I might be over-exaggerating. I might not be. I'm not too sure. But these are just some tips. So you really want to look for these things. And again, if there's no areas to hide, you want to use the subway stations as well, because those are over there as well. You want to use the big cars and ugly cars again as well, because they attract less attention. So you really want to be careful with what you get into and where you are. So I strongly suggest using that 5 minutes, scout out the area. And so if you're in the city, you probably want to hide in an alleyway, in a dump truck if you can possibly find one. They're really rare to find there. In a store if you can go in there as well, parking garages. And the ghetto, you really want to make sure you can find a spot where you can get on top of the roof. You can get into a dumpster because there's a lot more of those. So you really just want to look around, see what options you have personally. And so those are really the tips I have. They've worked for me. I'm not the best player, I will admit it. I've been caught several times by some really good people. And so you really just want to try to think like them. And a lot of people are going to use cameras against you because the good people will. That's what the game is for. So you kind of want to stay out of range of the cameras as well. Maybe if you are in the range of a camera, hack the one closest to you. Reason for that is if you're using it, they can't use it, which means they can't see you through your camera. So you really want to think all this stuff through. So thank you for watching, guys. Please rate and subscribe. Hopefully you guys like this video. I might even have a Let's Play coming out of this soon. So thank you guys, and I'll talk to all you guys later.